I'm going to show you exactly what to do to help your knees feel better and move better so you can play Ultimate harder and perform better for the long term. I'm Brian, an Ultimate Frisbee player and trainer. I've done over 20,000 in-person training sessions, worked with hundreds of Ultimate Frisbee athletes, and I've been playing Ultimate for over 20 years at all levels. And I'm going to show you what works for your knees. So I'm going to break this down into fundamental knee movements, how we can do them really easily, how we can progress them, and then how we can add isometrics to increase the intensity and improve the joint and tendon health around the knees. So let's start off with just the fundamental movements here. Our knees flex and extend, okay? They bend and straighten. They rotate, which a lot of people aren't as familiar with. And we can move the patella or kneecap, which a lot of people find kind of icky. So let's start with flexion and extension here. Initially, you just want to find a position where you can comfortably bend as much as possible and extend as much as possible. So sitting on a chair upright might be a little bit easier than on the floor, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do it from the floor. What I want you to think about though is what you're feeling. So we want to extend. Can you feel the quads? Can you feel the muscles on top of your thigh working? When you bend, can you feel your hamstrings working? Okay, squeeze as much as you can and squeeze. Now, to make this nice and easy, you can lie down. Okay, you can even put your hands under your hips. You can get a foam roller under your hips to pitch yourself more this way. That makes this even easier. So I'm all about finding the easiest way to get this going. Okay, what we want to do is with all the fundamental movements here of the knee, we want to get as much of these in as we can on a daily and a weekly basis. So I recommend 5 to 10 reps of this at any given point. You can do it several times throughout the day. That's going to help get blood flow and nutrients in and out of our joints. Because our knees, like other joints, they don't get nutrients, they don't get blood flow in and out if we do not actively move them. So if they are staying still for long periods of time, it's like they're being starved of nutrients. They're not able to stay healthy, they're going to feel worse, and they're not going to recover as well. So now let's go over knee rotation. So this refers to rotating the shin or the tibia while everything else stays still. So what I'm going to do is keep my kneecap still, keep my thighs still, and I'm going to rotate my shin out and in. This is external rotation, internal rotation. And as you go, first I just want you to try to get the shin moving. You can pull the toes up like this, rotate, rotate. Once you're able to get some movement here, and it's okay if you can't. Some people really struggle with this initially, but if you're able to get some movement, then I want you to focus on what muscles are working to create the movement. So we kind of want to feel these muscles in here working to rotate like that. When we rotate the other way, externally, we want to feel these muscles working. Maybe you can even see them contracting to pull and rotate this way. What a lot of people do is they'll try to use their ankle to pull along, and they'll feel it a lot in their foot and ankle. We really want to create the tension here. That's what's creating the movement. And again, you might not do that initially. That's okay. We just want to practice. Another thing you can do if you're struggling with this is use your hands to guide. So can you use your hands to kind of guide the shin in and out? As a progression, you can try relaxing the foot and ankle completely. Let it flop, rotate, rotate. It's going to be a little different. It might be a little bit tougher for you as well. You can also play around with how much your knee is bent when doing the rotations. If you go fully extended, you're not going to be able to rotate. If you go a little bit of bend, that might be pretty tough too. So I recommend somewhere around 90 degrees, somewhere close to that. And again, sitting on a chair might make this easier as it does with the flexion and extension too. Now the final fundamental movement is going to be the kneecap, which just floats above the knee joint. We want to be able to push it in all directions here. So unlike the other movements, we can't actively do this as well. So we're going to use our hands. What I like to do is get my forefingers and my thumbs on the bottom and the top of the kneecap, and I'm going to push up and down. We want to be in a position here where we can relax our quad, relax our thigh. Otherwise, this is going to be really tough to move. Okay, so as I've continued to say, sitting up on something, probably a little bit easier, but find a position that works for you. Okay, we're going to push up and down, get some movement. We don't want it to be painful, and ideally this is gliding a little bit. Then we're going to push side to side, so I might take my thumbs, glide it side to side. My knee's a little bit swollen. This is my treble knee, so you may not see my kneecap a whole lot, but you can tell stuff is moving, right? And if you're following along, it may not feel awesome. It may feel weird, but this is really important. So remember, with all the fundamental movements, we want to get everything moving as much as possible pain-free for the best chance to keep our knee healthy, get it the blood flow and the nutrients that it needs. Okay, so now you can go diagonal, and you can push and push. Hit the diag. All right, then we can go diagonal the other way. And as you do this, just moving is great, but you can also think about, is there a direction or two where it doesn't want to go as much? Maybe it doesn't feel as good, maybe it just doesn't glide that way. That's where we want to spend more of our time, generally. Okay, so flexion, extension, rotation, patella movement, or kneecap movement. These are the fundamental movements. Now I want to go over how we can make them more intense so that you can progress over time. The first way to do it is just by adding extra volume. So maybe you do 20 knee flexion and extensions. Another way you can do that is by changing your body position or changing your hip position for flexion and extension. So if I want to make this harder, make these muscles work a little bit harder, without loading the knee and putting a lot of stress on the knee, I can pull my hip into more hip flexion. So I could pull it up and then try to extend. Okay, I can hold my hand here or not, and when I try to fully extend, these muscles have to work a lot harder than if my leg was down lower. Okay, so we can go into end range for that flexion and extension. Okay, that's going to make it a little bit harder here. Another thing you can do to make it harder on this side is you can go into hip extension. So I'm going to go here with one leg underneath me. I'm going to slide this knee back as far as I can, and then from here I can bend. Okay, now I'm still getting the same fundamental movement. I can even push and extend and squeeze and flex, but now it's harder on the flexion side, on the bending side. So I'm working this side of the knee, this side of the thigh. It's harder than doing it the way I showed you before, but it's still not putting a lot of stress on the knee. It's not like I'm doing squats or jumping. I'm not putting weight on the knee itself. So this is a really effective way to just increase the intensity of your flexion and extension. And you can also put a pad under your knee if this doesn't feel awesome. I try to stretch out enough so that my thigh is right on the ground there. Those are good options for progressing flexion and extension. For rotation, we can do a few things here, but one of them is increasing the volume, so I can go timed. Rather than saying, oh, I'm going to do like 8 or 10 reps, I could do a minute, 2 minutes even, and see if I can make these muscles work really hard to rotate. I can also create some resistance, so I could go here, push into my hand, so that when I rotate, I can also push against my foot. Okay, so we can create a little bit extra rotational resistance as we go. Another thing you could do is you could dig your heel down and in. So see what happens here? It engages all these muscles. I can dig in and hold that pull as I rotate. All right, so another nice way to progress this. Initially though, we just want everything to be nice and easy. Make sure that you understand how to move, that you're feeling the right stuff. Then you can worry about progressing it over time once you have the habit established. Now, for the patella movement, we can't actively make that harder, but what you can do is just spend more time here. You can do extra reps. If you find that angle that needs a little bit more attention, you could push and hold that position for 20, 30, 60 seconds. So if you find a really specific angle that needs work, that's a way to progress it, increase the stimulus to create better change. Now that we've gone through the fundamental movements and some progressions, I want to show you knee isometrics. There's 2 different kinds I'm going to show you that can be super effective for improving the strength and reducing pain. So the first kind is a knee flexion isometric. So we're going to get our knee flexing and trying to push like that. So we're trying to extend with our knee in flexion. The more flexion you're in, the more intense it might be. So I'm going to show you several options to make this more or less intense. We're going to start with the simplest, where you're just kneeling like this. Okay? From this position, if this feels okay for you, I'm going to show you what to do. If it doesn't feel okay for you, I have more options soon. All right, so what I like to do with this is push down with my feet into the ground, and we want to feel like the quads are working. We want to feel tension along the knees, okay? So I want to make myself work. Now, I could just push so that my butt hovers above my heels, okay? If we want to make it more intense, I can grab underneath my ankles and shins. I can push down with my feet and then pull with my arms. So it's like my feet and my arms are fighting, and I can create a really high level of tension for this isometric. For the isometrics, what we want to do is spend 5 to 10 seconds building up to a level of pain-free effort, and then about another 10 to 20 seconds holding that effort steady. The harder the intensity, the shorter duration we're going to hold the effort. So it's like with lifting. If you're lifting more weight, you're going higher intensity, you're going to do fewer reps. Same thing with the duration of the isometric. So let's say I want to push it about 50% of my maximum effort. So halfway up to my maximum effort. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to push down through my feet and ankles. I'm going to pull with my hands. I'm working a little bit hard, but not super hard. And I'm going to stay steady here. I'm going to hold this for about 20 seconds. At the end of 20 seconds, I feel a nice burn in my quads, feel my knees working. I'm going to slowly relax. Really nice stuff. Okay, if I were going to go higher intensity, I would take a little longer to build up. We don't want anything to be immediate. That quick jerk sometimes can cause pain. So slow build up, and then I would probably only hold that high intensity for about 10 more seconds. Okay? Now, this position does not feel great for everybody. So I'm going to show you another option. If you go down like this and grab, fundamentally, the idea is the same. We are making this stuff work. We're trying to do this, and we're resisting so that we can't do that. So the isometric, we're creating force, but we're not moving. So I'm going to go like this with my fingers around my ankle or my shin, whatever feels good. And I'm just going to slowly push, trying to extend my leg. I'm going to build up that effort and then hold steady. And then slowly relax. Okay, another way that you could do this is just sitting like this. Okay, same thing. The more bend for a lot of people, the more likely they are to have some degree of pain. So if your knee is inflamed right now, if it's not feeling great, you might need to go less bend and less intensity. But we can always do some intensity. So if going 50% does not feel good, lessen the bend, lessen the intensity. Maybe I'm going like really, really gentle, like 5% of my maximal intensity, just to feel a little bit of tension. That's still really good because over time you can build up the intensity of the isometric as your body allows. But we want to start in a position that is very low pain where we can feel some tension and then build up over time. Now, another version of this isometric would simply be pushing your foot down and into the floor like this. Okay, so this is something that maybe is a little more accessible if you don't want to lie on the ground, or maybe it feels a little bit better for your knee. The key is to find a version that works for you. So I'm going to kind of push my foot down and in, down and forward. I'm going to sort of brace with the rest of my body. You can see I'm creating tension here. This is the stuff that is working. I'm holding tension there. Same rules apply. Slow build up, hold for about 10 to 20 seconds, and then slow relaxation. The cool part of these isometrics is that they can improve tendon and joint health significantly. They can reduce pain in the short and the long term and can reduce inflammation. And they're a nice assessment. So you might find, let's say one knee hurts more than the other, or it's been more of an issue. You may find that in the slow buildup and the slow relaxation, one side has a much easier and smoother time building up and relaxing. That's great information. And that shows that the one that is more challenging probably needs more practice with that type of movement or contraction. Now, one more isometric I'm going to show you is a rotational isometric. So our goal is to try to rotate without moving. So that's why practicing rotation like we did early on is really important because it allows us to get more out of this isometric. So simple thing you can do is get a weight, a yoga block, something that is not going to move that you can push your feet into. Then you are going to get your feet about neutral here, so straight on. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to rotate and push in like that. You're going to feel these muscles working. Okay, so you're going to rotate out, rotate in, push, just like the other isometrics. You're going to do a build up, pushing harder, 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 then hold steady for 10 to 20 seconds, then slowly relax. And we want to try to feel these muscles in here working. You might feel your tension through your knees, and that's good as long as it's not painful. So, ways that you can progress or make this easier: don't push as hard, okay? To progress it, you can push harder, or you can go into a greater range of motion. So one thing I like to do is use a plate so my feet can be more rotated out like this, and then I can push in like that. And you can see the tension there hopefully a little bit. So I'm rotating, bigger range of motion, bigger stretch. It's going to make this a little bit more challenging and a little bit more intense. So don't start here, start neutral, and then you can work your way here. And finally, the last version of the rotational isometric, you can use your arms to resist. So I can go like this, I can rotate out, I can put my hands here inside with my inner elbow on the outside of my knee, like that, and I can rotate or try to rotate inward, but I'm not going to let my knees move. So I'm rotating, I'm pushing, feeling it in a very similar spot as I was with the plate. So this is something you don't need any equipment, just your hands. Really good pieces of equipment actually, custom made. And you can still get a really solid isometric from here. So if you made it this far, amazing. I have an Ultimate Mobility membership I think you'll really like. I put it in the description. But for the knee stuff, what I would like you to do is try to do this most days of the week, all of the fundamental movements. Start there. Build them into warm-ups for field sessions, warm-ups at tournaments, in between games, or even during games. A lot of those fundamental movements are pretty easy to do. They're low energy and they can keep your knees feeling good, help you recover. Over time, start building in the higher intensity stuff as long as it feels okay. You can superset it with lifts. Again, you can do it as part of warm-ups or cool-downs at the gym. And just like with strength training, we want to progress the intensity or the volume or both over time to help our knees feel better and be ready to play Ultimate. And a final note here, pain is complicated. Human bodies are complicated. There's so much stuff working together. There's so many different things that contribute to pain or stiffness or immobility. The stuff I showed you is specific to the knees. It can absolutely help, and also there may be other things contributing. So developing strength and mobility in the rest of your body can absolutely help. Reducing stress in other areas, improving nutrition and sleep, these are all things that can contribute to you feeling and performing better for the short and long term. So I hope you'll practice this stuff and also remember to take care of yourself holistically. Have an amazing day, and maybe I'll see you out on the field sometime soon.